There comes a time in everyone's life where you've just got to believe the Lord. I know that we walk by faith, we live by faith, we believe God every day, but there are situations where no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, that you've just got to walk in faith. You've got to stand on the word of God and trust in what he told you and what he told you to do and obey him and follow him no matter what. And we're living in a time where, there's just so much untruth all around us. And there are places, there are people, there are institutions that we're supposed to be able to trust, right? And we can't. But you can always trust God. You can always believe God. And I have made up my mind that no matter what happens, I won't let go of my faith. Of course, it is always a pleasure to have you join me for the Sanctuary Sunday School. I'm so happy for you. Thank you for all of the love and the support that you continually show. If this is your first time, subscribe, tap that bell, stay with us, and just join in the fellowship and worship and wave in the comments and let me know that you are here. This week's subject is Abram's exemplary faith. Exemplary. He was a good example of faith for us. That's the kind of faith we need in order to make it through these last and evil days. So when we look at this, and let's recap last week because as we know, his nephew Lot got in some trouble. There was a war broke out in his region, and they ended up taking Lot into captivity, and they took everything that he had. So Abram had to go and had to get Lot back. But in the process of doing that, Abram created some enemies. He had four Mesopotamian kings that he had to go up against. And so by him doing that, it created a few enemies. So when we open this lesson, it says, after these things. So after these things, those things is the situation that was created. And so I love that. And that's a lesson right there because sometimes when you're chosen by God, when you're called out by God, when you're moving for God, you're going to make some enemies. Everybody's not going to love you. Everybody's not going to support you. And that's so important. No, we're not going out there, selling wolf tickets, as my dad was saying, and being a bully. But at the same time, you got to be kind of strong and you've got to be able to persist in the face of opposition. So Abraham went up and he got his nephew back and he kept his family together. And it says in our text that God came to reassure him. And I love that because, when people come against you and they do things and sometimes it gets to you, but when God reassures you, it makes you feel like, okay, I got this. I'm going to go. Can't nobody stop me. I'm invincible. When you know and understand that you have the Lord on your side, and when you can follow this example of Abram's faith and do what? Believe God. So we see that's what happened here. And when we look at this and we talk about the promise, now God had made a threefold promise to Abram. He told him, I'm going to make your name great. He said, I'm going to bless you, and then you're going to bless others. You're going to be blessed, your seed's going to be blessed, and that the whole world is going to be blessed through you. So make your name great. I'm going to bless you. You're going to bless other people. This was pretty much the covenant that God had made with Abram. And this covenant came through Abram's seed. Okay, so now at this point, Abram was getting a little older. He hadn't had any children. So he's kind of like, okay, you told me you're going to bless my seed, but in order for me to have a seed, I have to have some kids. So I don't have any kids. So possibly my blessing is going to come through my servant Eliezer, who was a faithful servant to Abram, and he lived in his house. And so this is something, and there's these memes out now on social media, and it says, like, there's one that says that I would make up. It would say, well, there are some people who think they can just figure out everything and work everything out. Then it says, yeah, that's me. I'm some people. That's me. I'm that kind of person who I will sit and I will rack my brain and make sure I have every little detail worked out. And if I see a problem arising, I'm going to figure out and I'm going to put my solution in there. And this is what Abram did. He said, okay, well, I don't have no kids. God said he's going to bless through my seed. So, maybe it's going to be through Eliezer. And God told him, he said, no, that is not what I have planned for you. He said, your seed and your blessing is going to come from your bowels, from your loins. This is going to be your son. And that just blessed me because sometimes we get a little anxious, and that's what I love about the word of God because it just ministers to you. Like I said, sometimes I'm trying to work things out and I'm trying to figure things out and I'm getting a little anxious and I'm about to go out on my own and do something that's not what God told me to do. God told me to what? Believe him and have this exemplary faith that Abram had. And so he told me, he said, no, you're going to have a son. And see, I love this because, see, God is not logical. God is faithful. So stop trying to understand and just believe. That's the message. That was like a nice little nugget that was nestled in there just for me. And I don't know, somebody else might out there may need to hear that as well. So then he reiterated the fact that his seed was going to be great because he had already told him, he said, it's going to be like the grains of sand, like the dust of the earth. And he told him again, he said, look up at the sky, man. Look at these stars. Your seed is going to be numbered as the stars. Have you ever gone outside at night? I love the stars. I love the beautiful sky. I just love looking at the heavens and just how great God is. And when you look up there, have you ever tried to count the stars? You can't even count them because it seems like they're moving. And when you try to count them, you can't keep track. And he told Abram, he said, look at that. That's how great your seed is going to be. And then he reminded him of the promise of the land. He said, remember, we had a couple weeks ago, he told him, say, look to your left, look to the north, to the south, to the east and to the west. Everything that you see, I have given to you and your seed. And he reminded him of that. He said, I'm still the same God. And so Abraham was talking to God, and see, he asked him, he said, okay, well, all right, I know you said you're going to give me this land, but God, tell me something. How is this going to happen? And I love that because when you have faith, when you walk in faith, when you act according to your faith, you can talk to God and God will answer you because you have demonstrated a faith and a commitment to Him. So he began to ask God, and God gave him very specific instructions. Now, again, this lesson is just chock full of little sub lessons and good little nuggets in there. Because, see, this is nothing I got out of. When you have faith in God and when you believe and when you're committed to obeying Him, God will tell you exactly what to do. You will not walk around confused and lost and not knowing what to say and not knowing what to do. God will equip you and He will give you everything that you need. And so He told him exactly what he wanted to do. He said, I want a 3-year-old heifer. I want a 3-year-old female goat. I want a 3-year-old ram. I want a turtle dove, and I want a young pigeon. And he told him to take these animals. Now, in the Mesopotamian region, there was a custom that you would take the animals and you would kill them. You split it down the middle. You put one on one half, and you put the other on the other one half on one side, and the other half on the other side, and then you would walk through to solidify this covenant. So Abraham was apparently familiar with that, and that's exactly what he did, and he followed this. So he killed the animals, and the large animals, he cut them in half and put them one on each side. And then God told him, you're not going to split the pigeon or the turtle dove. And Abram followed God's instructions to the T. We have to follow, remember, Abram's what? Exemplary faith. That means he set an example for us to follow when God gives you instructions. If He told you to go get a turtle dove, you can't go get an eagle because eagles are bigger and better. No, we do what the Lord has asked us to do. And then it says, and I like this part. See, another nugget in this lesson. When He killed these animals, the fowls of the air came down to try to eat them. There are predatory birds that eat dead carcasses. So when these animals sat there, God took His time and He didn't come right away. And so now you just got these dead animals laying out here in the heat and in the sun. And so you have the predators coming. And it says that Abram had to split and keep these animals away. And I thought about that, because sometimes when God tells you to do something, he doesn't come right away. He doesn't move right away. It doesn't work right away. And people will think you're dead, right? They think you're done. They think your dream is dead. They think your goals have failed, and they want to come in. You got buzzards in life that they just want to come and they just want to pick over your remains because they think that it's over for you. And Abram was like, "No, this is for the Lord. You're not going to touch it. You can't have it." And that's how we have to be about what God has told us to do. We got to protect it. We got to guard it. We got to keep it intact just like God told us to do it. Don't let nobody mess up what God told you to do, because then God is holding you accountable. So Abram stood there and he kept this in order for God. And then it says that God caused a deep sleep to come upon him. Now remember, Abram had asked God, how are my people? How is my seed going to get to this land? How is it going to work? And then that's when he told him about the darkness that was going to come, where the children of Israel will be in captivity in Egypt. And he was talking about how long they would be down there and that they would be slaves and that they would not be treated well. And it would be a bad time for them. But then he said, but after that, I'm going to deliver them, and they're going to come out with great spoil, and I'm going to judge the people who oppress them. And that's exactly what happened in the book of Exodus with when they came out of Israel with the 10 plagues and all of those things, and how Pharaoh lost his army and how the Israelites were able to leave with all of these riches from Egypt. And that's exactly what happened. So this is God telling Abram, about all of that. And then he said that the Amorites' iniquity would be full. See, sometimes we want to jump on our enemies. We want to fight our enemies. But God is their God too. And God gives them a chance. He gives them a chance to do right. But they did not do right. So this judgment came upon them. And that is how Abram's seed was going to acquire the land that God had promised them. So he answered Abraham on how are they going to get there. And so then after that, it says that Abraham woke up. Now think about this. When he did it, and he was waiting on God while he was awake, he had to shoo away the fowls that were trying to eat up these dead carcasses. But then God put him in a deep sleep. But while Abram was in that sleep, nothing happened. When he woke up, they were still there. And then it says that God himself came down in the form of a smoking furnace and walked between these animals to solidify this covenant with Abram. Abram's exemplary faith. When you trust God, when you believe God, God will move for you. He will keep his promises. He will keep his covenant. You've got to believe. I know it may get hard. I know that sometimes your way may seem dark, but you've got to be able to see the Lord in the dark times. You've got to be able to see the Lord in the good times. Sometimes when things get good, we get lifted up and we think that we did. It was God. It's always God. It's always your faith and your belief in God. When it's good, it's God. When it's bad, you still have to trust God and believe God. And we want to always, 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 always live by Abram's exemplary faith.